A concrete floor grinder is a machine that is used to grind concrete, as the name suggests. And typically it's a machine that has some kind of rotating head or multiple heads that lay on the floor, and based on the weight of the machine, the down pressure, and the rotation of the tools that are attached to the machine, you will remove a layer of concrete. And that's basically what a concrete grinding machine is. These types of machines are typically used to do several things. Perhaps the most common is prepare the floors for a next step. And typically a next step would be something like applying some kind of a topical coating like an epoxy or some kind of urethane sealer. And that's really what you're doing, is you're preparing the floor for a topical coating. But other uses include repairing floors. So, floor prep is one thing, but sometimes you'll find that floors get damaged. You find that there's uneven settlement of sections of floor where you've got some lippage, and you need to remove that and make things even. That's what a concrete grinding machine can be used for. But it can also be used to polish many times. So let's say you didn't want to apply a topical coating, you wanted to have the concrete floor have a natural finish. So these machines can also be used to polish, after you've done the grinding, to polish these floors, so you have maybe exposed aggregate and it's a natural finish that you then mechanically clean. You don't need to apply anything to it. The basic operation of a concrete floor grinder is one where you attach grinding tools to the machine, and that machine then agitates those tools, typically in a circular fashion, in order to do the grinding. And a lot depends on the type of tool that you use. So let's talk about the tools, because that's more important than really the concrete grinding machine. At the end of the day, the concrete grinding machine is a motor that's driving a bunch of heads. But what you put on those heads becomes more critical, because that's what's going to determine the quality of your grinding. And that really depends on what your end goal is. So that's very important to understand, is what are you trying to achieve? And then based on that, you select the right tools for the machine that you have. So let's talk about those tools. Those tools, the tools that are used for concrete grinding, are typically in today's world based on some form of diamond material. So you can use, historically carbide was another material that was used for concrete grinding, but generally today diamonds are the most prevalent media that's used to grind. But in order to hold those diamonds, we have to have some other medium. So that's the bonding medium. And so the bonding medium is typically three types. There's metal bonded diamonds, and there is then resin bonded diamonds, and then there's hybrid, which is a combination of metal and resin. There are also ceramic bonded diamonds, so that's a fourth category of bonding. But that bonding agent is also important because if you're grinding something that is soft, you want to have a soft medium like resin. If you're expecting to do more aggressive grinding, you want to have a more resistive bonding material like metal. So that's one factor in choosing the tool, is what is the bonding material. The second factor is the shape. So the design of the tool also will affect the quality of your grinding. So you've got tools that have sharp edges, you've got tools that are generally flat, you've got tools that have got channels in them, and these tools are designed, and there's a whole science behind the design of those tools. Those tools are designed for different applications. So for rough grinding, for removing topical coatings, for polishing, they all have different designs of the tool to make your job easier. So knowing what you want to do is the first thing. Then secondly is picking the right tool to do what you want is the second thing. Then you can attach them to your machine, which is the concrete grinding machine that we're talking about. There are a variety of concrete grinding machines available, and there's several brands of machines available. I think if someone is considering what type of machine to get, the key features are around the size. and size determines efficiency. So the bigger the machine, the more efficient you are. But size also determines the portability and the ease of use. So it's harder to say, if you have a really big machine and you've got some work in a 500 square foot basement, really it's impractical, right? So there are smaller machines for smaller jobs, bigger machines for bigger jobs, primarily because of efficiency, but also because of access. The second feature is the power source, right? So most grinding machines will run on a 220 volt type circuit, especially in North America. They run on a 220 volt type circuit. Now some of the smaller ones will run on 110 volts. So those are very practical because they're versatile. You can take them up and down stairs and use regular circuits to operate them. But as soon as you get into the bigger areas, the machines will start demanding a 220 volt type power source. And then there's the third kind, which is a propane based. So we also have propane based grinding machines, and those give you a lot more versatility, but you're restricted because you can't use it everywhere. So there are permissible places where you can use propane, others where you need to use electricity, but you need a 220 volt circuit. So that's the third, so size, and then power source. And then there are a bunch of practical considerations, like how do you transport it? So if you've got a small car, you really can't buy a big machine. So for a big machine, you'll need some kind of a van or truck to transport it. Also, depending on where the work is, if it's a nice big warehouse that's open, then yeah, you want the biggest machine you can find because the efficiency of that work will be so great. But if your work is in an apartment building and you're doing 5 different levels and you don't have easy access to an elevator, you probably want to have a smaller machine. So again, big principle: small job, small machine; big job, big machine. Floor grinders, as I said, come in a variety of shapes and sizes, and they're made by a whole bunch of people. So quality will demand a higher price for sure, and the other thing is the size will demand price. So if you look at, say, a small machine that's typically good for up to 2,000 square feet of work each job, you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 to give you the machine and the tools that you need for that job. Right? Then there are consumables that you'll have to replace as you go along, but $3,000 to $5,000 is a good kind of rule of thumb. If once you get into the bigger machines, right, you're looking at anything from $12,000, $15,000 all the way up to $80,000 and more, depending on how sophisticated you want to get. But the mid-tier, if you will, the first entry level at the 220 volt level, that's a more efficient for like 4,000 or 5,000 square feet. Those you're looking at maybe $12,000 to $15,000 fully kitted out.